So hey everyone, welcome to Garden Fork. This is the DIY podcast. It's the companion to the Garden Fork YouTube channel. I have a special guest who is actually my neighbor, Brendan, and maybe you want to tell everyone how we met.
Well, I've seen several Garden Fork videos and recognized this guy's voice, and was just walking my dog in the park one day, and I think he was talking to his wife, and I was like, I know that voice. Look over, and that's a familiar face from his YouTube videos. I was like, you're the Garden Fork guy. Sure enough, he's my neighbor.
And now we're best friends. So we're in Sunset Park, Brooklyn, where I live during the week, and Brendan lives here during the week as well. And then, so we met in the park, and I kind of completely forgot I was walking the dogs with my wife. Because you said that you had made a maple syrup evaporator, and I just started yakking about maple syrup evaporators and forgot that I was walking the dogs.
Me too. Yeah, no, I've been doing just a ton of maple syrup research and came across your videos for DIY evaporator and was like, that's a brilliant idea. I should do that. And literally the moment I saw your videos and watched them, that same weekend I found a old filing cabinet in a dumpster. Just rummaging around. Oh, that's the best way. Yeah, it was brilliant. So
a little background. So Brendan owns, like a lot of New Yorkers, you own a little house upstate. And so it's a little cottage on like 10 acres of land.
Yep, about just under 14.
So do you have some sugar maples on there? Or?
Sure do. I've got a ton. So I haven't done a full assessment or count of the trees, but in the rough 2 to 3 acres on the front edge of my property that's more accessible, like when there's feet of snow, I have about 30 maple trees, and
that's
most
plenty.
Most of them are sugar maples. There's a few red maples. Probably not going to tap those this first year, but who knows?
So you found the Garden Fork maple syrup videos and then found a metal filing cabinet. And
yeah, I was like, let's do it.
I did not invent the file cabinet evaporator. There's a historic house is in Ohio, I think, or Indiana, and the fellow that works there had the initial design. He used the steam table trays, the drop-in steam table trays. But then I found this guy in Indiana, Zach, who fabricates the evaporator pans.
Yeah.
And so you bought a pan from him.
I did, off your recommendation, totally. And it's great. I've tested it a couple times, and it works fantastic.
Did Zach know, because I emailed him a couple times saying, hey, I'm going to put the word out there about you.
Well, I should have told him that I got a recommendation from Garden Fork, but I told him that he came highly recommended.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll link in the show notes if you guys want a really good evaporator pan for an incredibly reasonable amount of money.
Yeah.
I was actually going to go down here to the stainless steel restaurant welder guys next to Costco.
Yeah.
And I was going to draw a plan and say, well, it's kind of like a steam table tray, but bigger.
Yeah.
But I didn't know if they would understand having the channels in it and everything. I don't know if they'd understand making maple syrup.
Yeah. I've talked to a couple people at, New York City has a lot of restaurant supply, especially on the Bowery.
Yeah.
And I drive past there to work all the time, and stopped in just looking for different solutions for like filtering or, different applications. And they were like, okay, making syrup. All right. That's weird, but okay.
Well, they must get a bunch of weird people in there anyway, because it is New York City, and there's like molecular gastronomy and all that.
Lots of niche markets that need restaurant supply.
So I thought, do you have any questions that you need me to answer?
There were, I was writing down a lot of questions, and I forgot my notes, but the things that I was thinking through are I'm a very process-oriented guy, so I have like planned out how I'm going to collect all the syrup, how I'm going to boil it. The things that I haven't figured out.
You know what I do? I'm like, hey, let's see what happens here.
Just do it and then think about it later.
Yeah.
That works. That's fine. The things that, I guess it's good then, because you've done the tests to know whether it works or not, which is great, because then you put it on YouTube and I get to learn from your experience. So I remember in one video, it was really cold one morning, you were boiling maple syrup and your lines had frozen.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you had thought about any fixes to that issue, or
a bigger diameter hose.
Bigger diameter. So
I was using the blue. I use lines, and I have a big barrel at the end of a pitch, basically of gravity feed. You could also do buckets, but I'm using that same blue line as my feed line from my garage is up a little hill, so I could gravity feed it. But the problem is that sap line is a 5/16 diameter. It's fairly narrow.
Yeah.
So when it was like 4 degrees outside or something, it froze up. But you can buy food grade tubing in all sorts of diameters. But the Leader Evaporator is the company I bought it from. They sell a mainline tubing fairly cheap, and I think I will use that.
Okay.
I mean, because I think 500 feet of I call it the blue tubing, is all of $50.
Yeah. I got one in my shopping cart on the Leader Evaporator website right now. I was also sort of tinkering with the idea of like whether we should do food grade or whether or not it's critical. I know the whole like BPA free versus like old traditional plastics is an issue, and I am trying to steer away from the old traditional, more go more towards BPA free, but like PVC, for example, as opposed to flexible tubing. If you are using it prior to boiling it, I don't know, does that make it still food safe if you're boiling it afterwards? I don't know.
PVC is food safe.
Oh, yeah. Great. Perfect. Yeah. I was actually considering like going from the storage tank into my sugar shack, which I'm started building one last weekend. I'm really excited about that.
But you had a plan before you started building it.
Yeah, I did.
Of course.
I had this old shed that was probably built, I don't know, 60 years ago, and really just had to lean on it heavy to tear it down. I just moved it off the foundation and now putting, it didn't have a cupola in it before, so I'm going to try to build another building that has a vent for steam out of it. But I was going to use PVC to go from the storage tank, through the wall and then into like my evaporator pan or a warming pan or some sort. But I was worried about it freezing because PVC will crack.
Well, you can also there's a tubing out there, it's used for wells. It's called black poly.
Oh.
If you go to the Lowe's or Home Depot up there, it's going to be near the that perforated drain pipe and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Then you'll see these coils of black pipe that are 1/2 inch, 3/4, and 1 inch in diameter, and they use gray or white fittings that are flanged, and you jam them on.
Fascinating.
You hammer them on, and that's well water pipe. So that's food safe, and it's a bigger diameter, and it's used to flexing because it gets cold in the ground.
Of course.
The problem is it comes in, I think it's 100 footers is what they come in.
Yeah.
But you'll find uses for it.
Yeah. Lots of tubes.
Or we could split it.
Yeah. Great. I'm concerned about the fittings, and I bought some food grade plastic drums from a guy in Connecticut selling them on Craigslist.
Yeah.
$35.
Yeah.
Per drum.
Are the blue ones?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're European though, so the bung like tops don't have the tap in it.
Right.
So I had to like drill my own holes, and I was putting like bulkhead fabricating PVC bulkheads into them, and so I that was the only thing that came to mind about how to solve the bunghole threads, because they're not standard threads. It's not the national pipe thread, whatever that
a lot of my
is.
friends up there use basically like a horse or cattle watering tank.
Oh, that's smart.
like a big galvanized tank.
Yeah.
And they build their own. It's a bunghole is basically a term for putting a valve on the side so you can get the sap out of the thing and into your evaporator.
Yeah. And then probably just like water hose, or you just do like a spigot out the side of your galvanized tank.
And then just run the black poly in. Right, so how high your storage tank is going to be above your evaporator? So it's at least going to be 3 feet above the ground.
Yeah, because that's how big a filing cabinet is.
Yeah. Are you just going to haul it manually with buckets, or are you going to try and pump it? Or
what I'm thinking right now, I gotta just have my 4-wheeler and a little lawn trailer behind it, and I put one.
So do I. Yeah.
It's a smart idea. I learned from you. And I put one of the food barrels or the food safe barrels in the back of the trailer, and just cut a big hole in it and put a bucket inside, and just cut the bottom out of the bucket, and then just drive around to my trees and pick up the bucket and pour it in.
Have you seen the maple syrup fail video?
Yes.
Okay.
That was a very, very, very valuable lesson I learned from you before the fact. So.
I went out. My wife told me to go out and buy a horizontal tank after that.
That's a good idea.
So I went to Tractor Supply. It wasn't cheap. It was like $150.
Yeah, I went to Tractor Supply as well and saw those. They have the giant ones. They're like swimming pool size.
Yeah.
And they're not cheap.
Well, they're made out of petroleum, so plastic is expensive.
Yeah.
No, hauling it by hand is fine. If you're going to have a barrel standing up in the trailer, I would take like ratchet straps, and then I'd only fill it half full.
Yeah.
Because I found that even like my trailer has a fairly wide wheelbase, but even that, I hit a rock, and once water is in motion,
it's just going.
It just goes. I mean, that's why ocean liners capsize, Yeah. So it just went. So my father-in-law, correctly, he's an engineer, so he was like, I could have told you that was going to happen.
It's classic father-in-law.
Yeah. But and it makes sense. He says, look, fill it half full and you'll be okay. But it was just a bumper day, and I was just trying to haul sap, and I filled it way too high.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's the sugar maker's nightmare, right? You just have a row of buckets overflowing, and that's your...
Yeah.
It's like, I got to collect the sap.
I end up giving my neighbors a lot of my sap.
Well, that's good.
So, because I live on a hill, and right below me, I don't own that land. It's all sugar maples, and my neighbors tap it, and they have a giant collection tank at the bottom of the hill. And when I have too much sap, I just drive it down there and I dump it in their tank.
That's nice.
So, and the guy lives right across the street, so I just wave, and I'm like, hey,
That's awesome.
They know who I am. They don't quite know how to figure me out, but they know who I am. So, I think the camera operator might be arriving here.
All right.
So, if you hear dogs barking, it's that. So, no, I just thought it was kind of cool. We ran into her in the park.
Yeah, and, total worlds colliding. Because I watch all your videos when I'm upstate doing my own version of weekend homesteading. Yeah, that was a quote from one of your videos, and it really sank in for me. And it's my weekend passion as well. Is put on my Carhartts and go out and do work.
But full disclosure, you're not. We both live in New York, but you're not from New York.
No, I actually grew up down south, outside of Atlanta, and it's where I grew up. Moved up here, probably almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
For a job.
Yeah.
And then the whole job market sort of crashed, and I just stuck around.
Hey, real quick here. I was wondering if you wanted to join the Garden Fork email list. It's Maura Eric. I don't know if you want that or not. But the best way to do that, if you go to the gardenfork.tv site, there are signups all over the place. There should be one on every page. Also, in the show notes for this show, if you're listening to it in the iTunes app or one of the other podcast apps, to click on the little, I think you click on the little text thumbnail of the show and the notes will pop up, and there's a link in there. Or just go to gardenfork.tv and there should be a sign up there. All right? Thank you. So we're back. The camera operator has arrived. The Labradors are very happy. So we have I brought out some maple syrup from last March. And it's weird because it was 2017. So I say on my little labels it says maple syrup 2017. But for some reason in my head it doesn't quite make sense.
It feels like so long ago.
Right.
The season's about to start again, so it's like,
yeah.
Well, the season's new, but it's the same year.
So we have some shot glasses of maple syrup.
This looks really great. Looks just like a dark bourbon.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Now, when you're making your maple syrup, if you're using a deep fryer with a big salad bowl or whatever, because real simple, just boiling it down. Don't try it in your house. You'll take the paint off the walls. But that first shot glass of maple syrup, when it's freezing cold outside.
Oh my gosh.
Brendan just chugged his maple syrup.
It's so good. Oh man, it's so good. It's better than that corn syrup they make.
Yeah.
Maple flavored corn. Real stuff. Man.
So, this will all take longer than you think.
I'm sure. I did a test boil with the evaporator a couple weekends ago, and it was like, put in probably a good 5 gallons of water, and fired it up, burned as hot as I could get the fire. Again, mine's not insulated with Firebrick at all.
Right.
Burned as hot as I could, and I think after about an hour, maybe hour and a half, boiled off 2 gallons of water.
Yeah.
So that's a lot to get to 40.
Yeah. So everyone, Brendan took my version of the original file cabinet evaporator and made it even better, because I've been talking out loud about shortening the firebox and then putting some sort of baffle or obstruction, basically, to try and get the heat to linger more on the bottom of the pan before it shoots up the chimney. Because I would put in pallet wood, and it would burn in seconds.
Right.
And so we were talking in the park, because I forgot that I was walking dogs. And I'm like, go on mapletrader.com. And you're like, I've already been there, Eric. But you brilliantly, the first part of the box, the file cabinet is like a big firebox. And then maybe halfway in, what kind of words am I trying to... You shortened up the file cabinet so it's a very narrow space underneath the evaporator that the heat and smoke are there.
Yeah, I actually... So I picked a side of the filing cabinet to be my front, and the back bottom corner, I literally cut out panels on each side and bent the filing cabinet up. So the
back up and... Yeah, oh, okay.
I bent the back up, and that made the sort of the floor of the back half.
Right.
And angled it down towards the firebox, and then bent it back to make the back of the file box, and then it was a little bit shorter, and then just cut off the bottom. So I was stewing over how to do it with my other friend, Eric. He was visiting from California, and we were stewing over it for probably a good 2 or 3 hours. Like, how do we... Maple syrup.
Yeah.
Delicious. How do we make it shaped like all the fancy evaporators that are for sale for thousands of dollars?
Right. I see them in the catalog.
Yeah. It's a lot of money. Filing cabinets are way cheaper.
Especially, I've got mine. I think I got 2 of mine out of dumpsters. So
brilliant. Yeah. So I know that the theory is that you make the firebox small so that it pushes the flame vertically, gets it underneath the evaporator pan, and then the pull of the stovepipe will just pull it back and keep the heat up against the the pan as long as possible. I also have so that some of the framing, aluminum of the filing cabinets that sort of divide the individual drawers between themselves. Yep. I left those in there, so it creates almost a little 3-inch wall. So as the flame is shooting back towards the stove, it'll hit that, and ideally, my theory is it'll circulate underneath the pan for just a little bit longer. So it'll linger in that little, 1 foot space, and then ideally jump to the next little section. And
I might have to go get another filing cabinet because I cut those out.
Yeah. I was thinking about. I thought about it for a long time, and I watched your videos several times. I'm like, okay. And I would go out late at night and I would just stare at my filing cabinet. I was like, okay, so when I do cut it, you have to consider these and this and this. So I probably obsessed a little bit too much on the design and the function for a filing cabinet evaporator.
Well, you sent me those pictures, and I was like, this is brilliant. Well, first, I was a little nervous because I was like, I just gave a stranger my cell phone number. And I thought, well, if he's making an evaporator, it can't be all that bad. So, but then Brendan sent me these photos, and I'm like, holy cow. So I got very excited. So we've been emailing and texting about this ever since. So
yeah. I also bought a little, iron sort of fire crate thing from the Tractor Supply that fit. It was amazing how perfectly it fit onto the two like roller trays that go into the filing cabinet of like the firebox.
Right.
The iron just fit just perfectly,
and it's
snug,
so nice. Yeah.
and it doesn't move at all. You could rock. I turned the filing cabinet upside down, and that thing still sits there snugly, right where it needs to be.
Now you're gonna have to buy a welder.
That's one thing. I've done the woodworking. I've done building. I've never gotten into metalworking, so it's something that's fascinating. The only metalworking I've ever done is cutting with a grinder. That's it. But putting things together, I did the same technique you did with the self-drilling screws. That's the only metalworking experience I've got.
I took the back safety shield off my right angle grinder the other day to do some work, and I almost cut through my knuckle.
Oh my gosh. I've seen a couple of photos of grinder accidents, and it's just too scary for me.
So I went to go find the shield, and I can't find it. So I might have to buy a new grinder.
Oh man.
So, well, there was something else we were going to talk about, and I'm blanking on it now. What was it?
I don't recall.
Okay.
I did have one more question. And it's generally, we had talked briefly in the park about insulating the firebox.
Oh yeah.
And I have been, I've gone to the Lowe's. They have pretty cheap Firebrick. The Black Friday they had a Firebrick sale. I think it's like 20 cents off per brick. I got excited, but I didn't commit to buying it because I feel like that would be a lot of bricks to fill up that whole firebox, and I don't want to spend, I don't know, $60-$70 on Firebricks. Was looking at fireboard. Those like boards or panel boards they put behind wood burning stoves to keep your wall from singeing or burning. I was thinking about doing something like that, but I couldn't find one that wasn't coated in iron or like a sheet metal that I could like cut and fabricate and put right in the firebox. So I was troubleshooting and thinking about ideas or ways to insulate it that might be cost effective and make the whole.
Because the Firebrick that I bought, it was at a Lowe's, and it was used for relining your stove. It wasn't for fireplace hearths.
Oh, okay.
And it's thinner.
Uh-huh.
And it was like $3 a brick or something.
Well, that's not so bad.
Yeah. And it was in this obscure place in the store. I don't know if you're experienced with, but the outside the city, the Lowe's and the Home Depot are populated by really helpful older guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. And these two guys, I said, I'm looking for Firebrick. Oh, well, why do you want Firebrick? I said, for my evaporator. I boil sap too. So we were there for half an hour.
Just talking sap and just talking syrup.
Yeah. But it's a thinner Firebrick that was for relining like Vermont casting stoves or something.
Okay.
So
I'm gonna check that out.
Maybe we could look online. I could send you what I think I bought.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah. I was looking in the garden section at like the patio stones, and those are not cheap. But
yeah,
I guess you wouldn't want to use patio stones because they're not.
They're made out of cement.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I don't know. Test it and find out, I guess.
All right. Are there any other questions you have? Or?
Yeah. What do you do? So you mentioned it briefly, and you talked about it in detail in one of your videos about the sap freezing. He said, just throw it out. Don't try to warm or melt the ice when it's already 4 degrees outside and things are generally wanting to freeze again.
Yeah.
So and I've been curious, at what point are you like diminishing your returns or whatever the...
Well, that's a controversial subject in the maple syrup world.
Okay.
Those videos get a lot of comment. Because, so here's my thinking. And I base this on, I have two, they're locals up in Connecticut who boil sap, and they've been doing it for, years and years with their families. Sap that comes out of the tree has about a 2 or 3% sugar percentage in the sap. Mm-hmm. And then when it freezes, or when it starts to freeze, the water is freezing at a greater amount than any of the sugars in the sap is freezing.
Okay.
So you'll find if you use round buckets or regular metal buckets, it'll freeze around the outside first, and it'll look like a ring. And sometimes you can just stick your hand in there and pull it out. Mm-hmm. It just goes, and I just toss it, and people are like, "Don't do that. You can boil that down." I'm like, "But the BTUs required to recover the sugar out of that frozen ice is so large that to me it's not worth it."
Okay.
So if you were doing reverse osmosis, which is what they use for like kidney dialysis.
Yeah.
But the high-end evaporators do reverse osmosis and then they do a boil. You could keep that, and it doesn't cost much to extract the sugar out of that. But unless the barrel is solid, I'll throw the ice out. I have had a couple where you have to break through the top, and like the middle 3 inches of a 5-gallon bucket is this slush. And it tastes delicious because it's like super concentrated sap.
Yeah.
And in the outer part there probably is some sugar, but I'm like, this is super concentrated and saving me a lot of time.
Yeah.
And
firewood. I
make 4 gallons a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would have made more except of the incident. Where I lost, that was like 50 gallons of sap.
Oh my gosh.
That's a gallon of syrup.
Yeah. That's a lot.
So, but yeah, that is a controversy in the sap world as to whether to boil the ice or not. And thankfully, people are polite about it in the comments. But no, you'll be out there. The biggest thing is if you can get people to help you.
Yeah.
Because I do it by myself, and I always tell them, "Hey, come on over," and then they're like, "Oh yeah," and then they don't show up.
Yeah.
But
cold.
Well, you're gonna have a shed, so a sap house. So that'd be nice.
Hopefully.
I don't really mind the cold because the evaporator is so freaking hot that you just stand next to, and you'll find you can't stand too close to it.
Yeah, the couple of test burns learned out pretty quick. It'll melt your shoes.
I have the Carhartt coveralls, the full insulated ones.
Nice, the quilted ones.
Yeah,
those things are prime. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. My wife and I bought matching ones. It's cute.
That's more information that we need to know.
Oh,
but thank you, Brent. But I melted the side of my Carhartt coveralls because I got too close to the evaporator. So
keep you warm, but also keep you numb. You can't feel the heat that well.
The smell of melting, burning cloth is nice. Yeah. Oh, one plug I did want to say. I went and donated blood today. So if you all want to consider redcrossblood.org. Brendan is a donor. He's drinking beer, and I don't get to drink because I just gave blood, and they said if I drank a beer, it would be the equivalent of drinking 6 beers at once.
Jeez. Maybe I should drink 6 and you drink 1. We'll be even.
And we'll be blood brothers. So. All right, everyone, if you have any questions, it's radio@gardenfork.tv. And maybe we could go up to Brendan's and make a video. Maybe we'll take a ride up. And when you're boiling, that'd be fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, there you go. Big thank you to Brendan. It was kind of neat just to have one of my Brooklyn neighbors come over and talk about making maple syrup. And there's nothing quite like having a little shot glass of maple syrup at the end of the day, especially with someone that appreciates it. So If you have any questions, let me know. The email address is radio@gardenfork.tv. There's like a bunch of our videos are on YouTube and on the Garden Fork TV site. There'll be links in the show notes. If you're listening to the iTunes podcast app, if you just swipe right, I think it is, on the image, the Garden Fork Radio logo while the show's playing, a bunch of text pops up. And in there will be links to the stuff we've talked about. And of course, the link to our Garden Fork Amazon shop as well. So always appreciate if you want to start your shopping experience there. And also links to our email. You can get Eric in your inbox once or twice a week. Just, Eric stuff. So again, always love to hear from you guys. radio@gardenfork.tv. So go make it a great day. All right? See ya. Garden Fork's theme music is used under license from uniquetracks.com.